Good evening, everybody. Sorry for our delay getting here. We believe we've had some technical difficulties getting started. We're going to blame it on Robert the doll, and I'll tell you why in a moment. there's a reason. But as always, I'm Jamie Widener. I'm joined by Chad Thomas over on the other screen. We are with Jotnik's Paranormal, and this is Paranormal Lens. So thanks for joining us tonight. And Chad, how you been? What's going on?
Crazy. Things are going crazy.
All right.
Between, things are picking up at work, a lot of little things going on.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And it's been 7 degrees. So, hey, we got that.
Mm-hmm.
Why
So
not? Why
why
not?
not? Hey, there is some interesting stuff going on in the sky now, and it's not drones.
What the
We
what?
have the parade of planets happening.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not paranormal, but it is astronomical.
Well,
Um,
once upon a time, it was considered probably very much still a paranormal thing because we didn't know what we know. And
right. This is true. But we do know now that they are planets and that they're not going to be in a line, but they are all going to be in our sky for the next, I think, a month, almost a month.
yeah,
So, but
it's going to be
it's
a while.
starting tonight.
All
So,
right.
so if
Well,
it's clear, get out there and check it out because it doesn't happen all the time.
and bundle up because it's 4 degrees.
Exactly. So,
So, yeah. Cool. Very cool.
yeah.
I forgot all about it. Thank you.
So, what about you, Jamie? What's going on?
Dude, it's just been a week, like here we go again, right? We talk about this every week. Like everything just rolls around and then we're back. So,
Hmm.
stuff happened, things got done. I'm sure something was important. I can't remember any of it in the moment, so I will just pass and go,
Yep.
okay.
So Bert and Jim are here with us, and they're throwing comments in already. Bert's going to wait till it's a little warmer to go out and look at the sky. I
Yeah,
don't
I
blame
don't blame anybody for that.
so.
Hey, Jim, good evening too. Uh, well, Jim's got the beard to protect himself, so I don't
Hmm.
know. Maybe that'll be a good thing. I'm working on mine. It's just not coming. I gotta push real hard and they can pop
Uh-huh.
out.
Yeah,
'Cause that's how you grow beards, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So.
No. Yeah, it's funny. Like tomorrow, I think, or today. Is it today? Is the 1 month anniversary of winter. So 60 days to go. Um,
Hmm.
and in 2 or so weeks we have Groundhog Day, which we all know is a factual thing and should be taken very seriously. Um, and we'll be here on Groundhog Day, so I think we'll have to talk about that a little closer. But some of that,
Hmm.
not an episode per se, but just a little facts about it. It's quite an interesting thing, actually, if you ever researched it. So more to
Okay.
come. More to come. Something to look forward to. Obviously, it's the most interesting part to me is it's exactly the halfway mark of winter.
Hmm.
So that's the good day. And we're
Hmm.
on the downslide from there, and hope is coming. Warmer days are coming. So for anybody out there, you know what I'm saying, especially the northern tier folks here in the U.S. In Canada, of course, too. I just spoke with somebody in Canada today in the Ontario area, and they were laughing at me for complaining that it was 14.
Hey, but Jamie, it doesn't matter whether you're in Pennsylvania or you're Florida at this point because they're all
That's
getting.
true. That's true. We're all under it. So I'll stay warm, everybody. Hopefully, everyone's got a nice cup of hot chocolate and a warm blanket, and maybe a fire, in the somewhere. Not That's not burning your house down, to sit back and listen to this episode. So, should probably get into it, right?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? So, well, tonight we're going to talk about Robert the Doll, which is, Chad, it's exactly that. It's a doll. So,
Hmm.
set the stage on this, but it's a little bit different. So, let's get the slideshow up here and run in. For the
Okay.
visual folks with us, we're starting to show some pictures of who Robert is, and I'll describe this as we go. But standing 40 inches tall, so a little over 3 feet, not quite 3.5 feet. It is a life-size doll of a little boy in a sailor suit with beady black eyes, and he has a stubby nose and a bit of a smirk-like smile on his face. So not terribly unusual from a doll's face. He is stuffed with Excelsior, which is not the command ship of Darth Vader in the Star Wars series, in this case, which it is there. But it's something a little bit old timey called wood wool. And Chad, he's about 117 years old, so
Wow.
he's not looking bad for his age,
No.
you know. So is a doll once again. So what makes him so unique? I'll tell you. He was made by the Steve Company. Robert was never really meant to be sold to the public, as dolls of this size 3.5 feet-ish, were commonly used in window displays and for marketing materials that were likely for other clown or jester dolls that the Company commonly made. So he would have been a one-off because of his size. And think about a kid carrying around a 3 foot tall doll.
Hmm.
Pretty big, and not really light. So
Well, I remember having a Steve stuffed teddy bear or something like that as a kid, and it was pretty heavy, and it was just like a normal teddy bear size. It wasn't something you played with. Like
yes,
they were to look at.
exactly that. So speaking of that, and a fun fact: the Steve Company is the originator of the teddy bear, and they were originally named in honor of Teddy Roosevelt.
Hmm.
So
I do remember that.
yeah, so there you go. You validated my fun fact. Thank you. Um, and everybody. I'm sure everybody's had a teddy bear somehow, some
Mhm.
way along the way. So the originator though came from over, and actually the Steve Company is based in Germany as well.
Mhm.
We'll get there. So one belief is that the doll came into the possession of Robert Eugene Gene, as he goes by Otto, as a childhood birthday gift by his grandfather. Gene was believed to have been 8 years old when he received Robert, and it is believed Robert was brought to Key West, Florida, where they lived, after a business trip to Germany. Another belief, though, is that Gene was gifted Robert, by his Jamaican nurse, and it was created in his likeness. More on that in a moment. So
Mm.
neither one have been proven to be true. But the likelihood of him coming over from Germany is probably more realistic, because that would have been the opportunity to find that life-size thing, especially as it would have been something they were trying to sell into the public. So maybe a favor to as a business transaction or a business deal.
Right.
Wherever he came from, they were seldom apart. And Gene owned the doll the rest of his life, and he lived to be 73 years old. Many
Yeah.
have said that many have said that he had what today would be generally considered an unhealthy relationship with the doll. Right? 73-year-old owning a doll, maybe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me, and then we'll get to why. So, what does that mean? Well, Gene often spoke of Robert in the first person, like he was a real person with him. He took Robert everywhere he went, from the age of 8 through most of his adult life, and he would commonly blame mishaps on Robert, claiming that he did not do it and that Robert did. So, anytime he did something bad, I didn't do it, Robert did it, or Robert made me do it. Now, I think it's safe to say, as you have kids, and there were kids in my house and all that good stuff, that's not overly unusual for a child. But this behavior also continued while Gene was an adult. So that is unusual.
Right.
Um, Gene grew up to be a prominent Key West artist. He married Annette Parker, and he lived in the stately Otto home in Key West that was called the Artist House. And don't worry, Robert stayed with him through all of this.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah. So he grew up, went through all life, got married, and still held on to this doll. So a little unusual. Gene passed away in 1974, and shortly after, a lady named Myrtle Reuter purchased the artist house and became Robert's new caretaker. Reuter said that Robert would move around the house on his own, and after 20 years of antics, she donated him to the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West back in 1994. So 74 to 1994. Holy cow.
Wow.
And she claimed Robert's expression changed when anyone badmouthed Mr. Otto in his presence. And unusual. We'll get more on that in a moment, too. The donation to Fort East Martello Museum did not lead Robert to obscurity, and his arrival at the museum marked a turning point for him and for the museum itself. Since Robert arrived, visitors have flocked to the museum to get a look at the mischievous toy, who is a permanent addition, protected by an airtight glass cabinet. Initially, Robert was not on display, but once he arrived, the staff noticed a shift in the energy of the museum. Once Robert was put on display, cameras and other electronic devices began to malfunction in his presence. Robert has appeared on TV shows, including Deadly Possessions and Ghost Adventures, Artifacts, both Zagbagan productions, and one of my favorites, Ozzy and Jack's World Detour.
Okay.
The things that Jack Osborne puts Ozzy through are very funny. I recommend the show just for that alone. And there are many, many others. He has had his aura photographed. He and the museum are a stop on the Key West Ghost Tour. And if you were there, I do recommend this. I've not been able to do it when I was there, but if I would stay longer, I would have. And of course, if you're there, I recommend the Key West Bar Crawl because, yeah,
Why not? Right.
that's what I did do. I think I had a good time. He has inspired a horror movie from 2015 that now has 4 sequels, and he has been the subject of several books. He has a Wikipedia page, and he has social media accounts, and he has his own website, www.robertthedoll.org. Fans can buy Robert replica dolls, books, coasters, and T-shirts, and the most adventurous, maybe some people we know, can even volunteer to be locked up with Robert after dark. I'm going to call now. #road trip. Okay. And there's other ways to do that as well. We'll get to that near the end. Once Robert was on display, he started to receive mail. Okay. That sounds a little strange too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I find most interesting is the letters were mostly apologies from people who claimed to have been disrespectful of Robert and were asking for his forgiveness. More on that in a moment too.
Okay. You've got a lot to unpack here, Jamie.
I do. This was a lot of fun, actually. I'm really glad we tackled this one. So let's talk about the paranormal, right? Because that's what we do. Paranormal Lens. Let's turn the lens on to Robert the doll. So while Robert seems like an ordinary doll, it wasn't long before he was involved in strange and somewhat alarming events. It is not known how or why, but weird and inexplicable, my gosh, I can't read my own stuff. Inexplicable events happened to people surrounding Gene and the Otto family. Gene's parents often heard their son talking to the doll and getting a response back in a totally different, much deeper voice.
Okay.
They also described seeing the doll changing expressions when they spoke in his company, as if he were paying attention and following their conversation. Again, Robert continued to live with Gene throughout his lifetime, and after his parents died, Gene moved his wife Anne into the family home. Unsurprisingly, Anne felt uncomfortable with Robert in the house.
Uh-huh.
She demanded that Gene lock the doll up in the attic where he could do no harm, and surprisingly, Gene consented. However, to spend more time with Robert, Gene created his art studio in the turret room of the attic where Robert was kept and was known to speak with him daily. Some believe that Robert wasn't happy with these new living arrangements, and soon visitors to the artist's house reported hearing footsteps in the attic and childish giggling. Neighborhood children described seeing Robert watching them from the attic window. Those same children gave accounts of the doll mocking them as they walked in front of the house. And whether that's true or not, Chad, that sounds like a really good way to keep kids off your lawn.
It does. I'll have to
Yeah.
remember that one.
Yeah. There is a gentleman named Malcolm Ross. He was a reporter for a newspaper called Solaris Hill, who claims he had a unique experience while visiting Robert for an article with some of his friends. One of the friends noted that Gene had purchased children's furniture for Robert, and a discussion ensued. While talking about that, one of the men had made a comment about what an old fool Gene Otto must have been, and Robert's expression turned from one of disdain to one of disdain as if it were some kind of intelligence there, and that Robert was listening to their conversation. And then again, after Gene Otto died, the artist's house was transitioned to a guest house where rooms were rented to tenants. The second floor tenants reported hearing footsteps above them in the now empty room where Robert was still kept. He's still in the house. This is like a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
You know, remember we talked about this many episodes ago, but an old 70s psycho thriller called When a Stranger Calls.
Mm-hmm.
Party lines and be able to make phone calls from inside the house. Yeah. All right. And then during a service call, a plumber reported hearing someone giggling and turned around to find Robert had moved to the room he was working. And no, he wasn't there when he started. So
Okay.
there's a lot there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to circle back to continue the paranormal stuff to the museum where Robert is currently kept. And there are apparently or allegedly 4 rules you have to follow when in contact with him. Rule number 1, introduce yourself. Courtesy, right? Not
Hmm.
unusual for paranormal investigation.
Right. That's something we
So
do every
every
investigation.
time. Yep. Common courtesy. Number two, always be polite. Don't disrespect him, be rude. You know, same thing. We do that too, right?
Right.
Try to be courteous. Number three, say goodbye when you leave. Okay.
Yep.
Courtesy again. Same things we do as investigators.
Yep.
And number four is rather interesting. You have to ask permission from him to take his picture. Okay. Keep that in
Okay.
mind. Not adhering to these rules will likely bring misfortune and even injury to the offender. So I mentioned a while ago that he gets letters.
Uh-huh.
Here's a few examples. So, number one, dear Robert, I just wanted to apologize for taking a photo before I asked permission. I must not have heard the instructions correctly before I photographed you. Since our meeting, I have suffered a series of heartbreaking misfortune. Please forgive me. Again, please accept my sincere apologies, and if you see fit to forgive me and end the bad luck, I would appreciate it, as would my family. Thank you. Your friend and admirer, James. Yeah. I'm not making fun here, but that sounds like a letter that somebody told me he had to write. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like my wife told me to tell you this. And maybe so.
Hmm.
I get it. So number two. I don't know if my visit upset you as it was never meant to be. Since my visit to Key West, I have experienced some very horrible events. I just hope that they are not connected in any way to my visit. But if they are, please accept my humblest apologies for anything that might have offended you during my time there. Tracy S. That's a blanket, right?
Yeah. That's what
I
I was
don't know if it
thinking.
was me. I don't know what was going on, but if it was me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of these are blankets, aren't they?
Somewhat, yes. There are some very specific things, though. So the next one. My husband and I visited the museum December of 2019. My husband took your picture without asking, and when we were leaving the museum, as I was going through the front door, I felt a shock go across my shoulders. In January of 2020, I was diagnosed with a severe illness and have not been well since. Things keep going wrong for me. I want to say we are sorry we took your picture without asking. Please forgive us. Kathy C.
Hmm.
Next, this one makes me laugh actually. Uh, about 11 years ago, I visited you and I made the worst mistake of my life. This isn't like all the shots in college, you know,
Hmm.
visiting Robert Goodall. Uh, I thought it would be funny to take your picture without your permission. Boy, was I wrong. So much bad has happened in my life, and I know it's because I disrespected you, and I'm sorry that I did, and I really hope that you can forgive me, Robert. Andrea H.
It took her 11 years to.
Well, there's more. P.S. I saw you on Zach Bagans' show. You were great. Is an exclamation point. She's
Uh-huh.
trying to butter him up.
I see that.
Think about the least. This is not on the list of least common denominators. Of things that could be why things are going wrong.
Right.
So again, maybe a bit of a blanket. All right, there's two more. I'm writing to apologize for my attitude and behavior towards you in the past. I belittled, demeaned, and ridiculed you, and I have accepted the consequences that you have rendered on my friends and me. It is time to make amends, and I ask you to accept my sincerest apology. Carol.
Okay.
Okay. She knew she did it. Lastly, I am sorry I was startled to see you and did not intend to disrespect you. Our lives have been upside down this year. Please forgive me during my visit. Brian K. Okay.
Hmm.
These letters are all found on the museum website and a few others.
Uh-huh.
So, in case you feel you may have offended Robert, you can send him an apology. By mail, it would be to the address is 3501 South Roosevelt Boulevard, Key West, Florida, 33040. You can email it to robert@robertthedal.org. Or if you go to the museum's website, there is a submission form at robertthedal.org. And look under the apology letters tab where you'll get some examples of how to apologize, perhaps, and how to say it. You'll find some options there, but there is a submission form there that has, I think, a 250 character limit. So you got
Okay.
to make it short and sweet, but it never hurts to. So
Right.
if you're experiencing bad luck, some bad things are going down, it might be worth just sending Robert an apology just to be safe.
Okay. So Bert wants to know, so how do you know if you can take his picture? Does he answer? If so, I'm out of there.
Well, to my knowledge, he doesn't. However, if you don't do it, then you don't have permission.
So
You
Jamie,
can
I,
ask.
do- I have a question. What if we used pictures in the show that weren't taken with permission? Are we going to have to write an apology to him?
Chad, I didn't think about that. I'm gonna do that right after. Um, well, the pictures that I have came from the museum website, so I'm thinking we're
Okay.
safe because they would have asked, and
Okay.
it's public domain at that point. So I'm feeling we're safe, but I know how to send a letter,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll figure it out. All right, man, that's something I didn't think of that though. Damn it! All right, moving on. Per museum curator Corey Convertino, Robert gets anywhere from 1 to 3 letters per day. And in addition to apologies, there are requests for advice. So it's like a Dear Robert column in the newspaper.
Uh-huh.
And this, I love this, and the occasional request for a hex to be put on someone else. If Robert needs the money, kind of thing, I think he could find a side hustle here. I really
Uh-huh.
do. And speaking of that, in addition to letters, Robert receives candy. Apparently, it's known that he likes peppermints, as well as money and even joints, as in marijuana.
Okay.
To be safe, the museum staff leaves the candy and other items alone. They don't want to offend him.
Uh-huh.
And, interestingly, Ms. Convertino also serves as Robert's proxy, reading each piece of email that he gets, and runs his social media sites. And yes, she does reply on Robert's behalf. It's not that creepy when you get a response. But she especially responds to children as she feels Robert would want to be kind to kids.
Oh, well, that's good.
I can't blame her for that. So,
No.
as we all should be. So, fun, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also scary. So, what could this be? So, some believe that when he was young, Gene Otto was involved in voodoo and he created a curse on Robert. Okay. Key West is is a location, and this is the early 1900s. It's a gateway to the Caribbean. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of confluence of peoples coming through into the U.S. through Florida. This is one of the stopping points. So possibly influenced by voodoo that we talked about many episodes early last season. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
how it is a Caribbean thing coming over from Africa. So possibly. There is a story that suggests that the Otto family utilized a lot of staff to manage their home and that they mistreated many of them, as would not be uncommon in the era. Extending that, there is a belief that a maid who practiced voodoo, when it was discovered, she was fired immediately. But before she left, she placed a curse on the doll, knowing what it meant to Robert, or to Jean, I'm sorry, and to bring fear and discomfort to the Otto family for their mistreatment of her and the other servants. Spite makes right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, another thought. Given Jean's unique and perhaps unhealthy affinity for Robert, might he have passed some of his energy or aura on to him? Maybe. Might there be another spirit trapped inside the doll? We don't know the origin. We don't know the circumstances under its creation. It came from afar. So anything
Mm-hmm.
like that's possible. So if you want to decide this for yourself, I recommend you go down to the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. It's open daily from 8 to 5. Museum admission is $17, so it's reasonable. There are
Mm-hmm.
other artifacts on display. They have a lot of Civil War history and, of course, a lot of Key West history there. But the real gist would be the Fort East Martello Ghost Tour and Robert the Doll experience. Here's where the road trip comes in, Chad.
Okay. I'm all set.
There are separate tickets ranging from $35 for a budget entry to $85 for a VIP experience. I checked their website and they found there were tickets available for the end of January and after. So we don't have to wait too long.
Okay.
And I don't know about you, Chad, but I'm thinking Key West sounds a hell of a lot better than the 17-degree high we had here today. So, yeah,
Are they getting snow today though, or is it not that far south?
it's that is the southernmost point in the U.S. in West Florida. So if it's snowing there, it is bad news.
Uh-huh.
So before we go any further, we'll discuss all this good stuff. Let me cite some sources. So
Uh-huh.
our dear friends at atlasobscura.com, hauntedrooms.co.uk, findagrave.com, and of course, robertthedoll.org. So
You did say he had his own website.
he does, and it's pretty comprehensive. So,
Okay.
and you know, it really, really kudos to the team at the museum. They've done a very good job with the website. So the Fort East Martello Museum has its own page, but if you Google Robert the Doll just as such, they are the first thing that comes up. So, and the website they manage for him there. So they are doing it right, and they're doing a really good job of it. I give them a lot of credit. They had fun with it too. You can tell. So,
Well, that's, yeah.
you know, we've had haunted objects before, right?
Hmm.
Woman of the Rain a couple weeks ago, things before that. I I don't know how I feel about this. Like in a good way. Like it intrigues me. It really does. And you can actually they have a gift shop. Go figure, right? You exit through the gift shop.
Right.
You
Exactly.
can buy a replica, not a life size one, but a replica of Robert the Doll, and take it home with you. You know, and I thought about ordering one in advance of this, and two things: one, I ran out of time, and two, I don't think it would be allowed to show it to anybody in my house because it and I would both be on the street.
Right.
Um, the rules kind of thing. So
I'm just glad you didn't have it shipped here, Jamie, because
damn it, I should have. Oh, by the way, there's a package on your porch. Wait, never mind. It's inside already. So there's so much to unpack with this,
uh-huh.
and you know, a lot of it, a lot of it has to deal with a little kid, right? An
Right.
8-year-old who got a doll, and but the rest of it, as he matures and ages and goes on with life, the continuancy of keeping him all through. It's just really kind of strange. And I don't think it's a bad thing. We all keep things. We have mementos. We have things that are valuable to us
Mhm.
personally that we hold on to, you know? And I get that all the way
Yeah.
through our lives. So it's not terribly unusual. And this was a one of a kind item. So I can get that too. You
Right.
know, there wasn't another one of these. You couldn't go, it wasn't a, patch kid you could buy on the shelf. Yeah, I'm showing my age on that one. I couldn't think Barbie.
Yeah.
Couldn't come up with any of that stuff. It's just a GI Joe. It's all less tougher. But all that stuff, you just didn't have it. And people in this era, people held on to things. This was 1900 to 1974. It's a long lifespan, but
Right.
it's due a lot of things that went wrong. The Great Depression and wars and all kinds of stuff. And this is an affluent family. So the Ottos were before Robert's arrival. They were really well off. And inheriting his family home. And I can direct you. The home, the artist's home is just Google it. It's easy to find. It's now a bed and breakfast. It is absolutely gorgeous. And yes, you can stay in the turret room where,
So
where Robert was kept. Um,
I don't know if you saw, but Marie has a replica, the small
yes,
version.
so cool. Has it moved around lately? Do you know where it is? Um,
She can't post a picture.
oh, bummer. Okay. Oh, I don't know how to do it either. So okay, I trust you though. It sounds so
Well,
cool.
if you send it to Paranormal Lens podcast,
We'll get it up in another episode.
yeah,
Absolutely. Um, that's it, right?
mhm.
The idea of this.
Apparently it doesn't move.
It doesn't. Okay, you wish it does. Wait a minute. We could be friends. That's so cool. The idea of this doll having gone through his lifetime isn't crazy unusual. It's the fact that he talks to it and he treats it as if it's a real person. Um, the stuff like that interaction. You would expect that to be outgrown at some point, which kind of makes me wonder. And of course, this is long before the diagnosis of the day that we have. The advancement in knowledge and
Mhm.
technologies. It makes me wonder that maybe perhaps Gene Otto might have had a mental health issue. He might have been a spectrum kid,
Right.
and therefore a spectrum adult. Um, I don't know. I'm not saying so. I'm not trying to disparage him
Right.
or anything. He wound up being quite an accomplished artist. His art is he's a lot of it's paint, and therefore, but he has a lot of stuff, and his catalog is deep. And he was very successful. So I mean, he clearly had the ability to have a normal life. He married. I didn't note that they had children, but it wouldn't be unusual either way. But he seemed to have a normal life, and he just had a 3.5 foot tall doll with him all the time. So
Yeah, but the fact that he talked to it
yeah,
and either had it talk back or talked back for it, that one's a little weird.
yeah, 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 I agree. And I want to say this too. Like, how tall is an 8-year-old? 3 feet or so, 4 feet maybe. I
Yeah,
don't know. I have no range for this, but having a kid at 8 with a doll that's 3.5 feet tall is like having another kid.
right.
And to carry that thing around. Um, you recall when one of the kids won the super giant teddy bear at Hershey Park on a game
Hmm.
of the chance? That thing was as big as the kid, right?
Right,
It's still here. It's upstairs and it takes up a corner of the room. You know, Having something like that you carry around everywhere you go
right.
is amazing. That's commitment. That's
Yeah,
love. I mean, that's love. And I'm not making fun here because I'm afraid Robert might come after me. But
exactly.
it is that it's a very deep affinity, and that's impressive.
Right.
So, and that can be the transfer of energies and other things. And if voodoo got involved and in some way, whether it be his intent or a malicious intent from someone outside, that could have gone much much further along than any of us ever know. So the good news now, if I can say good news, is that where Robert is in the museum, he is at a place of prominence and under camera. He has not moved in quite a long time. So that's good news. But
Okay. Good.
you never know. So what do you think, sir? I've talked a lot.
Well, first of all, an average 8-year-old is about 47 to 54 inches tall. So a little over, almost, 4
I
feet.
love Google.
Uh-huh. Um, and Marie sent a picture into the Paranormal Lens and Messenger. I'll see if I can get to that where there's some of that stuff that we're having issues getting to, but we'll try to get it there. So, um,
Thank you. Thanks for sharing it as well.
um, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. It's one of those sort of like to see it and experience it. But Bert made a good comment here. Not sure the level of Robert the doll, but I definitely think an object can absorb some of the owner's energy.
Yeah.
So if he loved on this thing all his life for since he was from 8 to however old he was.
70, dude, he had this doll for 65 years. 65 years. He could have retired. The doll could have retired from their
Right,
relationship.
right. That's a lot of energy that somebody has put out
Yeah.
to that doll. Like, and it spent some time in the attic by itself, but that I don't know. There's definitely something to say about that. It is all about energy and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see it. I noticed that you didn't talk about a webcam that they have set up on it or anything like that. So
Well, again, right now, the point of that is there's a camera on it all. The museum is cameraed, so
okay.
there's security cameras everywhere because they have artifacts and things of value. But once he got to the museum back in '94,
Hmm.
before he was ever on display, people knew he was there. So that's an interesting thing to me. Like he was already somewhat of a phenomenon, at least locally. In the Key West and South Florida area where people were coming directly to the museum before he was even available to be seen. And then the mail started coming, and like it makes me wonder if the mail was coming to Mrs. Reuter, who took over the property and took over possession of Robert for those 20 years. I'm wondering if mail came to her in some way. I guess not, but
Right.
like, how did it start right away if people weren't seeing him, but knowing that they may have slighted him? Like, and the idea of the slighting, meaning that you had to apologize, like that's pretty unique.
Right.
And I can't. I'm racking my brain trying to think of other paranormal opportunities where this kind of a situation happens, and I can't come up with anything direct. I mean, there might be. Don't be wrong, um, but we generally don't think about how we would have offended a spirit. When we're out on, I mean, we get kicked out of places, right? We're asked to leave, that kind of stuff. We
Right.
get that through the call and response and the process of deduction. And some of us, some of us get asked more to leave than others. Um, I have never been asked to leave a room yet. Knock on
Okay.
wood. That doesn't happen. But you respect the wishes of
Hmm.
in the moment of that spirit or entity, and because it's their space and not ours. We're visitors and travelers, and they're in their space.
Right.
So you know the concept that anything that has bad's happened to you is really really interesting, because that could be the slightest of things, and it could be a major catastrophe. I mean, the person who had a significant health diagnosis, to say that was because of taking a picture of Robert is really interesting.
Right.
But it's kind of like, we'll go back to our superstition issue, episode,
Hmm.
where there's so many things that we do that are meant to fend off the belief that some bad spirit has done something to us. Spilling
Right.
salt fluid over your shoulder.
Right.
The concept stuff, that we kind of do. I just knocked on wood. You know, um,
Right.
you know, we do some of this stuff out of my hand, out of mind even.
Hmm.
It's just an action. We don't really understand why we're doing it. This is intentional. Like, it's direct. They're
Right.
sending a letter to an inanimate object in a
Hmm.
museum, you know, as if it's a person, living next door.
Yeah. But then, how much of this is just good marketing, Jamie?
Well, maybe all of it. I don't know. It's a
Right.
good question.
I mean,
Um,
and not that they're getting money for the letters, but it's just keeping the story alive,
yeah,
which gets more people there, which keeps the story alive. Which it's just maybe it's just good marketing.
sure, sure.
So,
I can't argue that. You
so
know, we 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 have been to a few places in our travels as investigators, and a couple of them, we've been to a lot of places, I should say. We've been to a few that I can probably say really aren't ever paranormal, but they have a good marketing campaign,
hmm.
you know? Um, and why do we investigate in the first place? My opinion of that is that it's because there's a possibility that we will have an interaction, or um, a situation where we might have a documented episode, right? That's why we
Right.
bring cameras and we bring voice recorders, we bring all kinds of instruments. We do this on purpose so that we can prove something happened or something is
Hmm.
happening, you know, and we say this often, no one's going to walk out of the wall and introduce themselves, right? The opportunity for having something happen is rare, but it's
Right.
the 99% of the time we walk around the dark, talk to ourselves. Like, that's like a broken record for how many times I've said it here, but how many times I've said it in investigations as well with our public
Hmm.
events. It's rare when something happens,
Right.
but the possibility that it could at any given moment is a draw.
Hmm.
And that doesn't matter if you're a paranormal investigator or what I'll call a ghost hunter, where you're there for the thrill and excitement of the opportunity of it. Either way, whether you're trying to document it or you're just getting a scare, that's what draws us.
Right.
And this certainly could well be the case.
Right. So.
And we're drawn to things we hear about.
Hmm. So. Well, what it all comes down to, Jamie, is
There he is.
Robert did it.
Robert did it. Yep. Fair enough.
So.
Oh, Robert. Well, I hope we haven't offended him. And yes, and Marie says this very well. That's the exciting part, that something could happen. Absolutely right.
Right. So.
I couldn't agree more.
Yep, and that's part of being an investigator. It might happen.
Yep. And you got to be ready, right?
Yeah.
You got to read the room. You got to understand the environment. You got to understand the other elements of the space you're at. Whether they're environmental controls, whether there's outside influence like traffic or people. Um, the physical condition of the structure. There's so many things that go into an investigation that that's why there's planning. That's why you just don't go
Mhm.
hucking it on your own and hopping over a fence somewhere. You got to know a little bit more about it to be safe and responsible. And I feel like I'm talking to Dave Dermini right now, right? Dave, I love you, dude. I love you, but don't do that. Um, so it's one of those things. And the more you know about the place, the better your opportunity will be for capture of something that happens. So
Right.
be prepared.
Yep.
All right, sir. Well, anything else? Any other thoughts here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, it's a very interesting story, and not get arrested. That's a very important
Yes.
part of it.
True, true, true.
No, it's an interesting story. So thank you for finding it and looking into it. And this was not an Atlas Obscura. I didn't hear that reference.
Oh, they have an article.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah,
So, but no, it's definitely interesting. It's definitely it's a doable road trip. So we could put that on the loop. I mean,
yeah.
so and get some key lime pie while we're down there. I mean,
Well, it's funny. Where at least where the artist house is located. I've been by it. I know I have, and it's a block off Duval Street, which is like the main drag for the beer, just the bars and stuff.
mhm,
Um, it's an easy walkable thing. I know I was by it on the Conch train tour. It's just a tourist trap, but you got to do it when you're down there. It takes you
mhm,
down by the buoy, the southernmost point, all through the city,
right,
the town part anyway. Um, and then bar crawl afterwards, kind of thing. But if you were going, you can stay literally in the artist house, and
hmm,
that is so neat to me. The idea of it, and it's a Victorian mansion, so it's gorgeous. It's just
right,
turn of the century stuff. It's still decorated in the same style, maintained very very well. I'm sure it's incredibly expensive because it's Key West, but hey, if you're going to be there, you got to sleep somehow. So
right,
uh, there are no Motel Sixes in there in that area,
right.
unless you're hopping off a cruise ship. I guess that's another way to do it. But
Hmm,
some of the short cruises go through Key West.
okay.
Gorgeous, beautiful place, always nice. Weather's normally always perfect. Um, risk of hurricanes in the summer, but all through the winter, well worth the time to go.
Yep. Sounds like
Um, but there's and the ghost tour itself is really cool too. There were a lot of other areas. Hemingway was known to be in Key West a lot. His home, he has a home there. It's a couple blocks away from the artist house. That's on the tour as well. So
okay.
you might see with the doll, and you might see Papa Hemingway all on the same trip. So can't be
Right.
wrong.
Exactly. So,
All
so
right,
yeah.
that's all I have, sir. So I'll let it move. Let's move on. Ah, and there's the camper too. So yes, right, nice move, Marie. So five. Let's see. Okay, how many can we really fit in? That was the question.
We can always set up a tent outside beside the camp.
Right. I have a 12-man tent, so that's now we're up to 17. So
So,
perfect.
all right. So that's all you. That's it. That's what we've
That's
got.
all I got.
All
So
right.
that's the end of my book report.
Okay. Well, nice job, Jamie. Try not to get something that scary looking again. I mean,
Next one won't be, I promise.
all right.
Mm. Bert Lynch nailed it. The Jot Nix tour bus. That's it.
Uh
That's
huh.
exactly it. We're gonna logo that boy up. We're gonna we're gonna paint it black first of all because it's
Mm-hmm.
got to be. Get our logo on the side, all big and bright, and then
Yep.
Bert's a coach driver, so we had with experience as a coach driver anyway. So we got that. Um, how hard could it, we got the crash course, I guess, on
Hmm.
getting a CDL maybe, but have a second driver and we're good to go. We're like Willie Nelson. We're on the road again.
Yep. So,
Love it. Good idea, Bert. Love it.
so all right. Well, let's talk about what we're doing in the next couple weeks. Next week, I'm going to dig into the Philadelphia experiment, which will, the preliminary research so far is interesting. I hope I can find enough to make a good 35-40 minute presentation. But we'll see. Um, that's definitely interesting, though. And then you're saying Hans Holzer is not as scary looking as Robert the
Well,
Doll.
he's a person, first of all. So, and no, he is not scary looking at all.
So okay, well that's good.
But his experiences might have been. So
Well,
it, it
it's a
wouldn't be
trade off.
Paranormal Lens without a little spooky.
Yep. Then I've got the Green Children of Woolpit after that.
Okay.
Then you're gonna look at Grimm's fairy tales, huh?
Yeah, why not?
All right. And then I'll look at the Rendlesham Forest incident. So,
All right.
so
That's
some things some of us maybe haven't heard of before.
that is one I've never heard of, so I'm
So,
looking forward to that episode for sure.
so yeah. Let's see. We've been talking about it before, private investigations at Booby's Brewery. You can reach out to our team leader, Melissa, about that. Information's there on the slide. If you don't have that, it's, well, you can go to our Facebook page and reach out that way. It's probably the easiest way. And Melissa will get back to you, but you can book a private investigation. They're usually Friday nights, and they're definitely interesting. So,
Yeah. Yeah, Booby's Brewery in Mountjoy, PA is our home base. For those who don't know us that well, it is a building on the National Historic Register. It's so built in 1830 or so, 1820. So it is still a working brewery. The Booby family was the originator of, and hence the naming of it. But they've all met ends, of course. But
right.
some more tragic than others, and we believe that most, if not all, the family still has a connection to the property. So we
Yep.
get to investigate 3 floors and
Hmm.
get around a good bit with that. We have lots of experience being there for 3 full years as the host team and counting. If you don't want to do a private investigation, there are public events, which
Hmm.
we'll get to next.
Yep.
You can come in as a ticket event and join us there, and we'll help teach you if you don't know how to be a paranormal investigator. We'll show you the techniques and trade. Let you use all of our equipment. Of course, you have your own. Bring it along. All is welcome.
Yep.
Remember
We've
the
got
date.
public events the 22nd and 20 of February and March. And then the 26th of April, we're going to do a Para-Unity event with another group at Booby's Brewery. These are all tentative dates. Tickets are not up yet, but we're trying to get the dates out there. And then the team is going to go to Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which then we'll do uh, some history of the week before, and maybe hopefully some evidence after that.
Mhm.
Shout out to John Covey who joined
Hey,
us.
John.
Jamie, you didn't give me a chance to say it, but I wanted to say, Mountjoy's better when you sleep over.
That's true. That's true. So if you're coming into us for either a private or a public investigation, there are accommodations right on site. You can actually stay inside the brewery. There is a hotel level on the 3rd floor. And then across the street, there's an Airbnb that's also owned by the brewery. It's called the Malt Baron Mansion. So you can definitely stay and immerse yourself fully into Rube's Brewery in Mountjoy, which again, you're right, Chad. It is more fun when you stay over.
Yep.
Things to see and do in all of the South Central Pennsylvania region. There's a lot of stuff. So
Yep.
welcome you to come join us.
Yep. And we're close to some other paranormal stuff. So, make a weekend of it.
Absolutely.
So, and then here's our social media. You found us on Facebook. We are on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You can email Jamie and I at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com. You can find our rebroadcasts of our entire catalog on Spotify. There's a link there, or you can just search Paranormal Lens on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of those that come up. I
Yeah,
think we're in the top of the search. Jamie, our podcast has hit 20 countries,
I'm aware. I saw that earlier this week. I was like, that's great.
and we're at I think 1,020 views or 1,030 somewhere in there. So,
And climbing.
yep. So,
We
yeah.
appreciate everybody for watching us. Thank you so much. And if you have an idea for an episode, a thought for us to cover something, just a comment about anything, drop us a
Mhm.
line. There's opportunities on Spotify to leave comments after episodes. Rankings as well. Give us some stars if you would, please. We really appreciate it. Give us an idea how we're doing. Without feedback, we just keep rambling. So you're like, hey, you're on point, great stuff. If not, say, hey, no, you're off mark. You want to see a certain episode, give us an email. We self-produce so we can move our schedule around. The stuff that you saw earlier that's coming up can get bumped here, there, left, right. We've done several already. We're happy to do several more, whatever it takes.
Yep.
We're always here for you guys.
So, yep.
Appreciate you so very much. Thanks for joining us.
We want to say thank you to everybody. Yep. And just remember, Robert did it.
We did it. All right. Well,
Uh,
I think I'm going to go because he's looking at me.
so, all right. Well,
I'm going to write my apology letter before I go to bed.
so,
Um,
all right. Well, on that note, again, thank you, everybody. We hope to see you next week when we're talking about the Philadelphia experiment.
Sounds great. See
All
y'all
right.
then.
All
Good
right.
night,
Good
everybody.
night.